Every royal treasury has invisible price tags. One reads power, another legacy. But the highest price is always attached to the woman who wears the jewels. Because the moment the palace doors close behind her, the real game begins. These are not just stories of breakups. These are chronicles of the greatest heists in history, where the loot isn't money, but legendary diamonds. And the battle for them plays out in courtrooms, bedrooms, and on tabloid front pages. We'll tell you how an American woman brought the British Empire to its knees and built her own alternative treasury. How the divorce of one empress created an entire jewelry collection for another nation. And how the sound of an auctioneer's hammer can be louder than any promise of eternal love. Our journey begins with the most explosive scandal of the 20th century, a story that shook an empire to its core, a king who gave up his throne for love, and a woman who received everything, except a crown. His name was Edward VIII, her name, Wallis Simpson, a twice-divorced American. In conservative Britain of the 1930s, her very name sounded like a sentence. He couldn't make her queen, so he dedicated his life to something else, building a new rival treasury, a private collection so dazzling that it would outshine the crown he lost. Their jewels weren't accessories. They were a manifesto, a direct challenge to the British monarchy. Every piece was a statement. Take the iconic Cartier Panther brooch, not just jewelry, but a portrait of Wallis herself. Predatory, graceful, dangerous. A diamond and onyx panther lounges on a massive cashmere sapphire of more than 150 carats, as if sitting on a conquered throne. Designed by Jean Soussan, Cartier's legendary creative director, it became the symbol of Wallis's audacity and her place in society. But if the panther was a public challenge, other pieces held their most intimate secrets. The famous bracelet with 9 platinum crosses was their hidden diary. On the back of each cross, set with rubies, sapphires, and diamonds, were engraved dates and private messages marking milestones of their forbidden love. Our marriage cross. God saved the king for Wallis. It was their love story etched in metal and stone, invisible to everyone but them. The dramatic finale came at Sotheby's Geneva auction in 1987, after Wallis's death. The world held its breath as the treasures of the exiled queen were sold one by one. It was a final performance, the last act of their shared life. And the price of every lot was determined not just by carats, but by scandal. The auction set a world record and revealed the true scale of the collection that had slipped away from the Windsors. But this shocking precedent wasn't the first. To understand how the tradition of leaving a marriage with diamonds began, we must go farther back, to another empire built by another ambitious man for the woman he loved. That man was Napoleon Bonaparte, a nobody without royal blood, obsessed with the glitter of old dynasties. He literally forged his imperial status through jewelry, showering Josephine with gems. For him, it wasn't just love, it was propaganda. Every stone in her necklaces was meant to scream that his newborn empire was richer and more powerful than the ancient monarchies of Europe. Their divorce was a tragedy, but also political necessity. Josephine could not give France an heir. And on the ruins of their marriage, a precedent was born. Unlike the customs of old courts, Napoleon was shockingly generous. Josephine kept not only her titles, but also her extraordinary jewelry collection. Among those treasures was a piece with a fate beyond imagination, the legendary cameo parure, created by court jeweler Marie-Étienne Miteau, founder of Chaumet. It was a masterpiece of neoclassical style, antique cameos set in gold, depicting mythological scenes, a direct reference to the Roman Empire that Napoleon idolized. After Josephine's death, the parure passed to her son, and later to her granddaughter, Josephine of Leutenberg. And here the story takes a spectacular turn. Young Josephine married Crown Prince Oscar of Sweden,
and took her grandmother's treasure north, to Stockholm. One generous decision, born from a painful divorce in Paris, led to this. The greatest symbol of Napoleon's empire became the most important wedding tiara of the Swedish royal family.
To this day, heirs to the Swedish throne, including Crown Princess Victoria, walk down the aisle wearing it. Napoleon never imagined that his political gesture would outlive his empire and become the pride of another nation. But that grand act set a dangerous precedent, a lesson that a modern European monarchy would later learn the hard way and pay for with one of its most beloved tiaras. We move to the present, to Denmark, one of Europe's oldest monarchies, facing the consequences of an old tradition. Queen Margaret II, preparing for the wedding of her younger son, Prince Joachim, to the bright and well-educated Alexandra Manley, wanted to make a truly royal gesture. She didn't just lend a tiara, she gave one. Her grandmother Queen Alexandrine's diamond garland tiara, a delicate piece shaped like drops of morning dew. It wasn't simply part of the treasury, it was personal, a gift she had received for her own 18th birthday. For 10 years, Alexandra, adored by the Danish people, shone in that tiara at state banquets. But the fairy tale ended. In 2005, the royal court announced their divorce, and the monarchy had a brutal awakening. The tiara, being a personal gift, legally belonged to Alexandra. There was nothing the palace could do. A historic jewel tied to 3 generations of Danish monarchs slipped out of the royal lineage and into private hands. The lesson was learned quickly and painfully. When Prince Joachim married again, this time to Marie Cavalier, the rules were different. Marie received access to a spectacular tiara, the Dagmar tiara, one of the crown's most significant pieces, but with one key condition: it was a lifetime loan. Same sparkle, but now with an invisible leash leading back to the royal vault. However, there are stories where the stakes are far higher than just one tiara. Stories where a woman loses not only jewelry, but her entire world. Such was the world of the woman known as the Princess with Sad Eyes. Her name was Soraya Esfandiari Bakhtiari, the second wife of the last Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Their union began like an Eastern fairy tale, a young, powerful monarch and a breathtakingly beautiful girl from an aristocratic family. The Shah was truly in love. He showered her with jewels, turning her into a style icon and the symbol of a modernizing Persia. But a shadow hung over their happiness. The throne required an heir. Her crime was not lack of love, but the silence of an empty nursery. After 7 years of marriage, desperate attempts, and medical consultations, it became clear Soraya could not have children. The Shah, torn between love and duty, made a devastating decision. He divorced her, and for Soraya, it wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was exile. She lost her title and was erased from the life of the country she had grown to love. And here we see the other side of the jewelry wars. Soraya wore the treasures of the Pahlavi dynasty, but she never owned them. She wore the Nur Olayn tiara, light of the eyes, a masterpiece by Harry Winston, crowned with one of the largest pink diamonds in the world, 60 carats, a breathtaking jewel. But it belonged not to her, but to the crown. When Soraya was forced to leave Iran, the tiara stayed in the Tehran treasury, waiting, cold and silent, for the next woman who could give the throne an heir. After Soraya's death, her modest personal jewelry, Cartier Bulgari, was sold at auction. Not out of revenge, not as a statement, but as a quiet, tragic epilogue to a woman who lost her war with the one enemy no queen can ever defeat: dynastic duty. Her story became a chilling reminder of how cruel the system can be, a system that, very soon, another princess would challenge with a full-scale, dazzling public rebellion. This woman did not vanish into the shadows.
She turned her personal heartbreak into the loudest jewelry spectacle the world had ever seen.
Her name was Begum Salima Aga Khan. Born Sarah Croker Poole, an Englishwoman, she married one of the richest men on earth, Prince Karim Aga Khan IV, spiritual leader of millions of Ismaili Muslims. For 25 years, she ruled a world of luxury, charity galas, and bespoke commissions from the greatest houses, Boucheron, Van Cleef & Arpels, Harry Winston. But when the marriage collapsed, a battle of titans began. In the settlement, Salima received not only a large financial agreement, but ownership of her personal collection of more than 250 jewelry masterpieces. And then she did the unthinkable. In 1995, Christie's announced a complete sale of her collection. The Aga Khan was furious. He launched an aggressive legal battle, arguing that many pieces were family heirlooms and should never leave the dynasty. Courts filled with reporters. The world watched as ancient tradition clashed with a woman's right to own what had once been given in love. The climax was the Geneva auction, a theatrical spectacle, a public execution of her past life. The auctioneer's hammer shattered their history into hundreds of lots. The star piece, a necklace with the Begum blue, a rare, heart-shaped blue diamond of nearly 14 carats. Once a symbol of devotion, now the centerpiece of a revenge auction. Every strike of the hammer sounded like a slap to tradition. The final total? Almost $28 million, a world record at the time. This wasn't the price of diamonds, it was the price of her freedom. Her declaration to the world, the past is for sale. But what happens when, in the 21st century, jewels don't symbolize love or status, but become weapons for survival? For Princess Haya bint al-Hussein, jewels didn't symbolize glamour. They became a weapon. Her story isn't a vintage drama. It's a modern thriller about escape, fear, and survival. The daughter of the late King Hussein of Jordan and half-sister of the current king, Abdullah, Haya became the sixth wife of one of the most powerful men in the world, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai. For years, she was the public face of a modern, glamorous Dubai, smiling at royal ascot, speaking at global forums, photographed in flawless couture. But in 2019, the perfect image shattered. Princess Haya staged a daring escape. She secretly left the country with her 2 children and sought refuge in London. What followed became one of the most expensive and scandalous legal battles in British history. This was not a war over titles or heirlooms. It was a war for her children and for her life. And in that war, her jewelry changed roles. They were no longer symbols of status. They became liquidity, a war fund. Court documents later revealed that Haya was forced to sell tens of millions of pounds worth of jewelry, not for dresses, not for luxury, to pay lawyers, to pay security, to survive. Diamonds that once flashed under cameras at royal receptions were now quietly exchanged for billable hours and bodyguards. In this harsh new reality, the value of a gemstone wasn't measured in carats, but in days of freedom. Haya showed the world that in the 21st century, for a woman trying to escape a gilded cage, jewelry can be the last resource, and the most critical one. That battle was extreme, but the world's most experienced monarchy has long learned how to avoid extremes. It perfected a strategy. We're talking about the British monarchy, the masters of the golden middle path, a strategy shaped by the painful legacy of their abdicated king. The perfect illustration of this policy is the story of Princess Diana. When young Lady Diana Spencer entered the royal family, everyone expected she would be showered with jewels, and she was, but with one crucial rule that defines the Windsor approach to this day. Her jewelry was divided into 2 categories. Category 1, crown jewels on loan, pieces she could wear but never own. The most famous of these was the Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara, diamond bows and swinging pearl drops. It became part of Diana's iconography. She wore it to countless state banquets, though she reportedly complained it gave her headaches. But it was never hers. It belonged to the Queen. And when Diana and Charles divorced, the tiara quietly returned to the vault, where it later became a favorite of Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Category 2,
personal trophies, jewels that belonged to Diana outright. These became her true legacy, the legendary sapphire engagement ring surrounded by diamonds, the ring she chose herself from the Darrad catalog, breaking all protocol, or the magnificent sapphire brooch, a gift from the Queen Mother, which Diana boldly transformed into the centerpiece of her 7-strand pearl choker. Those personal pieces, infused with her style and courage, became heirlooms. After her death, they passed to her sons. Prince William placed that sapphire ring on the finger of his future bride, ensuring Diana's story would live on in the future of the monarchy. And today, the living embodiment of these careful rules is another princess, Princess Michael of Kent, born Baroness Marie Christine von Reibnitz. She wears spectacular historic tiaras, but none of them are hers. She sparkles, but she never forgets who owns the jewels. But even inside cautious Buckingham Palace, where inheritance rules have been perfected over centuries, personal choice and a rebellious spirit can still send shockwaves through the system. And no one embodied rebellion quite like Princess Margaret, the younger sister of Queen Elizabeth II. Glamorous, defiant, tragically romantic, Margaret spent her life dancing on the edge between protocol and desire. Her stormy marriage to photographer Anthony Armstrong Jones and their explosive divorce in 1978 became the first royal divorce scandal since the days of Henry VIII. But Margaret's most instructive jewelry story isn't about what she gained or lost in the divorce. It's about what was hers from the very beginning, the legendary Poltimore tiara. It wasn't a Windsor heirloom. It wasn't a gift from the Queen. In 1959, just before announcing her engagement, Princess Margaret did the unthinkable for someone of her rank. She bought herself a tiara at auction. Created around 1870 by Garrett for Lady Poltimore, it was a Victorian masterpiece, tall, majestic, with intricate diamond floral scrolls. It was also a transformer. It could be worn as a necklace, and its 11 sections could be detached and used as brooches. Once Margaret bought it, the Poltimore became part of her identity. It was in this tiara that she walked down the aisle in 1960. Photographs of her wedding look went around the world. But its most iconic moment came in 1962. In a photograph taken by her husband, Lord Snowdon, Margaret sits in a bathtub, wearing nothing but that tiara. It was pure rebellion, a provocative, intimate image, treating a historic jewel with shocking nonchalance. That photo told the world more about Margaret's character than 1,000 official portraits. Time passed, the marriage ended. Margaret's life drew to a close. When she died in 2002, her children, David Linley and Sarah Chatto, faced a practical problem: inheritance tax. They made a decision that triggered national outrage. In 2006, the Poltimore tiara, Margaret's personal property, the symbol of her independence, was put up for auction at Christie's. The public was furious. Many believed that regardless of legal ownership, the tiara had become part of national history and should have been purchased for the royal collection. But it wasn't. The auctioneer's hammer fell like an epitaph. Estimated at £200,000, it sold for £926,000 and vanished into a private collection. Gone from Britain. Gone from public memory. And the question lingered. Even if a princess owns her jewels, does she or her heirs have a moral obligation to the nation? Or is private property still private, even when covered in diamonds and written into royal legend? This loss revealed something uncomfortable. Even the most carefully constructed systems are powerless against personal choice and financial reality. The era when a princess could walk away with a family tiara is over. Today, the sparkle seen at royal weddings is carefully rationed, legally defined, and contractually controlled. Love may be eternal, but a tiara is always on loan. The golden cage now has a stronger lock, but in protecting the jewels, Have we lost the stories? Because perhaps the most unforgettable chapters in the history of great jewels were written precisely in those moments when they escaped the vault, when they left the cold safety of safes and stepped into stories of passion, rebellion, and freedom. Freedom bought by carats.